Hey everybody, it's Durger time. You know what that means. It's time for another episode of AEW New Era. We are on to a strong start, and by that I mean we already spent too much money on bonuses because we forgot to give everybody something to do on our last show. And I just learned something that would have been a lot more helpful in the last episode. Apparently, if you were to go to somebody, for example, let's say Austin Gunn here, and you wanted to give him a bonus, you wanted to give everybody a bonus because everyone's mad at you, for example, you don't have to do each one. You can just go down to, there's an option for entire roster and give them all a bonus that way. Would have been a little helpful. I don't know if it would have really solved the problem of everyone being very upset individually, but it's good to know. I wanted to share that with you. Now, we're doing okay. We have, I think after this episode, our momentum system goes live because we're going to have an average, which should show up on the corner of the screen periodically in all of that data over there. And so a bit on the momentum system here that we're using for this objective, kind of this objective-based gameplay. So the momentum chips will depreciate in value if we go down, I believe, 3. We're going to try 3. If it goes crazy, we might do 5 of the average of our shows. So Rampage and Dynamite combined, averaged out, and that's going to be a rolling average. So it's always going to be a little bit harder because the thing about momentum is that once you gain it, it's harder to maintain it. Momentum is not necessarily a game over state, but it's going to make things harder if we start losing the momentum and Tony Khan starts getting upset with us. What that's going to mean is more objectives. So right now we have that major objective down there, and there was 2 other objectives. If we ever lose a stack, we're going to go down to 1 extra objective, and then another extra objective, and then another extra objective. So it could cascade. If we ever get to the bottom of the chips, is very bad news. But we can gain it. We can gain it from winning objectives. We can gain it from beating our averages of our show. And there'll be probably some other small ways that we can gain a little bit of momentum here and there. So keep a look on that. It hasn't come into play yet, but after this episode, we should have enough show histories, because we'll have... we'll have a Dynamite and a Rampage and a Dynamite and a Rampage. We'll have enough for a decent average to start that rolling data. Right now we couldn't because we've had 2 shows. It just doesn't make sense. So once that goes live, we will have that, and then that whole element goes into play. In terms of our shows, we do have another scheduled event in 13 days that we're going to be building towards. And that's All Elite Wrestling's Grand Slam, which should be in the Arthur Ashe Stadium. It's going to be kind of like a mini pay-per-view. We're going to run it just like how AEW runs it, where we have 4 major pay-per-views a year, but we have these special dynamites that are happening on those events. For those who are playing AEW or playing with me here, I just found out how to do this. So I was very confused because how the hell do you run an event on the same day? What you got to do is on that day, before you get into the PM setting, you go to Dynamite, you go to Modify, and you change it from held on Wednesday to hold on like a day before, and then you have to change it again. It's a little fiddly, but what that will do will allow it to skip till the next week, because basically without getting a penalty for canceling, because the penalty only comes into play in the PM setting where everyone's in the arena, and then you'll be able to run your event as normal. Well, hopefully I'll remember to do that. It's a little fiddly, but for the sake of what we're doing, that'll work. Obviously, AEW has a lot of specialty, AEW Dynamite episodes, and we're gonna do those as well. We might add our own. Obviously, you have Fyter Fest night 1 and night 2, Beach Break. You got Blood and Guts. You got Homecoming. You got the First Dance. You got the anniversary show. Winter's Coming, and I feel like we'll have a few more for Rampage, a few more for Dynamite, and they'll be things that we build up to. We're not gonna do one every month. might be every other month or something like that, because our events are basically every like 3 months or so. We got March is Revolution, then 2 months later is Double or Nothing, then it's like 3 months, or sometimes usually in the end of August. It really should be. In fact, we might modify that. It really should be the end of August. Is the sort of the end of all of that. We will fix that. You got May, July, August, so like 3 months. And then you got Full Gear in November. So it's like every 2 to 3 months is a new pay-per-view. We're not going to add an extra pay-per-view, but we will be doing these other specialty events that'll just be on TV, on TNT, like normal. I think that's why that TNT was an option on there for events, so that makes sense. And we might add these in as ways to kind of cap off a major story event. We're also going to have rankings, which will show up on the right-hand side of the screen, because I am going to try to book it like AEW does, which is you don't just jump to the top, to the leaderboard, to number one contendership. You don't have a match to determine number one contender unless it's hotly contested between a certain select people. And I have a whole ranking system that I set up. So I'm going to try to keep track of it. It's a little fiddly, but it will account for those dark matches. It'll account for everything else. It's a little kayfabe, but I think AEW's rankings are a little kayfabe too. So, no, if you were crunching the numbers, you're going to go, hey, wait a second, that's not right. Like, for example, I think Colton Gunn is like undefeated on a 26 win streak, but those aren't counted as much as they're important because they weren't on Dynamite. They're on Dark. They're with lesser people. I guess it's not kayfabe. It's more like an ELO thing. I have a way to simulate that and kind of keep track of it, and a little bit of way to fudge it a little bit to get to what we want. So you'll see those from time to time over on the right hand side of the screen. It should be a fun, different way to book a show than we normally do. Okay, so we have a Rampage next, and then we have Dynamite. So we are going to run this. I don't know if they're always going to do these live, and if they stop. Like the last week that I saw, and it was a recorded episode of Rampage. I don't know if that's going to be the normal thing. They'll have Dynamite and Rampage together, in which case we might move them to the same day to avoid some availability issues. Because one of the things that's great about the open door is I can get a lot of people. The bad thing about the open door is that everybody else can get a lot of people. And we could see already some of the problems that come into play with having that open border is that there's a lot of people that want to work AAA. There's a lot of people that are working New Japan. Ethan Page is working A1, right? So, like, because we have this open contract, not everyone has one, but a lot of people do. It makes it problematic because they could kind of show up. And unfortunately, the game doesn't really have a good way to simulate in the contract system a, like, first refusal. That would be great to simulate what's really happening in wrestling, which is in real life, AEW has basically non-exclusive contracts with everybody, but they have exclusive television contracts. So they have to approve if you're on TV, and they get first right of refusal. So basically they could say, listen, you have to be available for our dates unless we give you permission to not be. Right now, the system in TEW basically is that if you're not exclusive, they will prefer to go to the show that's better for them. Either just paying them more per show or is of a higher popularity. And sometimes that's not you. And sometimes if it's in different markets, it gets funky. So, AAA is arguably not as big of a company as we are. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. We'd have to take a look at what AAA is, but I believe because they are, what are you? You're a medium 9th in the world. I think we're much bigger than you. We're a medium 2nd in the world. So because of that, because I think they're bigger in Mexico, they get a higher sort of the people that want to work in Mexico are going to get a higher preference for that and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a problem. That's not a big deal, but it is something we have to look at, and if it ends up making it easier, we may do Rampage and Dynamite together and film it on the same day, and that might make it a little bit easier. We're going to have a episode of Rampage and Dynamite every week anyways, so putting them together and locking in that date might be better for us. So right now, we have to film the Friday show live, so we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and get over to it. But first, before that, let's check the headlines. So some crazy stuff happened right before the save went live here, as we flipped over from the last Dynamite. And it's not that Tom Phillips joined Rev Pro. That's funny. It's that CMML and New Japan and AAA have imploded. AAA has gone to war with CMLL, and New Japan of America and CMLL have linked up a hostile relationship. Ring of Honor has gone to war with CMLL. Things are getting very tense over here. It's going real crazy, and then CMLL stepped away from New Japan. So part of, I guess, the build up of the Forbidden Door has had CMLL implode and gotten a very negative feeling here. Very crazy. Something to keep an eye out for, because this could affect our relationships between people. Right now, we have no relation to CMLL right now. In fact, we are allied with AAA, but that, we don't know how things will shake out here. I don't know. I've never had this happen where someone else goes to war and we were in an alliance. Like, I don't know if they're going to want us to be hostile with them, and we'll have to make that decision. I don't know. All right. Let's get on over to Rampage and hopefully put on a banger of a show. All right. We got some mail. Loan periods just for New Japan and Kenny Omega. That's fine. I believe we get paid for that, so that is helpful. You know what? There is one thing we want to do, and that is, where is he? Where is that son of a bitch? Brandon Cutler, you are no longer a road agent. You are going to be occasionally a personality. Okay, I'm going to have to talk to you, because I do want you to be available as a on-screen personality. Perfect. And we want to get rid of that road agent. You're just not cut out for it. I think QT actually is a road agent for AEW. So, yep, he is. If we need an extra one, we can scout for somebody. I'm sure we have plenty in the roster, to be honest, already. But he was not cutting it out. We were getting a lot of negatives from him. So we don't want to deal with it. All right. Let us go ahead and book the show. Where are we going to be? We are, looks like, in Ocean City, New Jersey. So we will run there. I'm not too concerned about the location, to be honest. We'll just let us rotate around. We do have a lot of injuries, times off, and stuff like that. Everyone's still there. No backstage incidents. I'm going to pull a rib, because I'm Cody Rhodes. I'm going to get a rib somebody. Who do we got here? Let's rib Abaddon. Let's give a practical joke. Completely fails to provide anything positive or negative. All right. Let's take a look at where we're going to be here. So 44 fans, 4,400 fans, almost 4,500. Not bad. Should be pretty good. Our popularity in the area is 64. And so, yeah, that should be a pretty solid venue for us here. So let's go ahead and let's book it. We have an hour, so shouldn't be too hard to book it. Now, we are a 3-ring circus style product, so we do have to put on, I believe, 3 or more different types of matches. Gets a little bit difficult with, and it can't be work the crowd, lift the crowd, that kind of thing. So it has to be like something different each time. It's a little bit more difficult to book it, for an hour-long show, but I think we can make it work. But it might give us some penalties based on who we choose to do that. All right, let's go ahead and let's book this show, and I'll catch you guys on the flip for Rampage. Okay, guys, we're ready for Rampage. Let's go ahead and look at the 65-minute show that we have. A couple booking problems, potentially, mostly with overuse of some workers, so we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, let's take a look. We start the show off hot with the beginnings of our King of Trios tournament. We got Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus versus 2.0. Decent reaction of the crowd, subpar wrestling. It's mostly from MacLeod and Daniel Garcia. They're a little bit weaker. Luchasaurus a little bit underwhelming. Well, that's about average, I would guess. We got the two teams going against each other. Cage, Jurassic Express basically move ahead. 2.0 lose in this. Jungle Boy got the pin on Daniel Garcia with a Canadian Destroyer. Actually should have set it up for Parker or Lee. That was my mistake. It shouldn't have been Daniel Garcia. And the match, we move on in the tournament. It's pretty okay. We lose some heat of the storyline with them, unfortunately, though we do get a great debut of Daniel Garcia's sort of technician gimmick of just sort of being like a strong worker. And lifted the match, the audio announcing quality lifted the match. I thought this was a work the crowd match and did not do that. So that's a little bit of a bummer. We don't have a lot of time to work in these shows, so I was hoping to kind of get them going. And remember, this is a 3-ring circus booking, so that does not count as a match aim. It has to be like car crash mayhem, high spots, technical, steal the show, hardcore deathmatch, those type of things, like an actual shift in the match aim. Work the crowd, lift the crowd, sex appeal, calm the crowd. They don't count as that. I don't know about storytelling, whether that counts or not. I think it does. So, the ones about balancing the flow of the audience don't count. It's really about those different styles, and that's what AEW is sort of this sort of clash of all these different types of things. So it definitely makes sense, but it makes it a little bit of a challenge. Post-match, we have Darby Allin and Sting coming out and getting a little bit of vengeance on 2.0. They jump Daniel Garcia, and a big brawl just happens. Everyone's involved. Jungle Boy, Cage, and Luchasaurus are involved as well. So it was a big old beatdown. And, obviously it's like a situation of, like, I think Luchasaurus gets knocked away. And then it becomes like the whole thing's a mess. Everyone's brawling and fighting. But Darby clearly targeting and upset about Daniel Garcia and his interference and 2.0's entire interference in his match last week, kind of building up and continuing this thing. We advance Christian Cage's storyline and gets a 51. Afterwards, we get a pretty decent segment. Miro comes out with his wife, CJ Parker. He's gloating as he proudly holds the title across one shoulder in his arm, and his other arm is kind of like crossed and locked with hers. They walk to the ring. He's smugging to the camera, gets to the microphone in the ring, and he says, Miro's still God's favorite champion. He has continued to bless him with glorious purpose, this wonderful belt, and of course his super hot wife. He boasts and then improvs a little bit about All Out in his match, gives enough time for Eddie Kingston to hit the ramp with a microphone and interrupt him. He kind of cuts a little bit of an improv dialogue as well, pointing out that Miro almost lost to him, that he found his weakness and he knows how to exploit it, and if it wasn't for some cheap interference from his trophy wife in the audience, that he would have lost at All Out. Miro disagrees, and after a back and forth, Eddie Kingston says, well, it's good that you disagree, because we can prove it, and we can rectify this. You see, the boys in the back weren't super thrilled with such a cheap ending on a pay-per-view either. So you won, technically. But we have a rematch for the TNT title, and it's going to be in New York. So Eddie Kingston's going to have a match with Miro at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in Grand Slam, kind of continuing this storyline with Miro having, for the first time, a bit of a chink in the armor, because he was going to lose if it wasn't for interference. So, of course, CJ Parker's still in play, so it's like a situation of, I don't know how you negate that, but Kingston is going to go for the title again. This does great. Kingston does a masterful job improvising. Miro holds his own as well. Gets to 66. Afterwards, we got the Men of the Year versus Matt and Mike Sydal. This was a wild brawl. It had terrible wrestling, unfortunately. Most of that is Mike Sydal. But we're trying to give the Men of the Year a win. Give Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky a win here. They defeat Matt and Mike Sydal in 6 minutes. Ethan Page gets the pin. And yeah, it's okay. I mean, honestly, I didn't expect much. I expected like at least a 50, but unfortunate to see where their ratings are. But we might be able to boost that with a couple good dark matches, and maybe we can boost them up a little bit. We got Ruby Soho in her second match, I believe. I have to take a look at my rankings, but she's a decent reaction from the crowd, subpar wrestling. It's against veteran Serena Deeb, showing up to have a match with her. She gets the win with a Heidi Ho. Has a 40. Serena Deeb has a 52. Match is a 48. A little underwhelming, but Ruby gets the win. Afterwards, she is attacked as Jamie Hayter comes out and levels out Ruby Soho. Remember, Ruby does have a shot at the championship at Grand Slam. So, and Britt Baker has said previously that she will not, she will not be allowed to have a match. I don't think she has the authority to do that, but basically, if she can't beat Jamie Hayter, she wants nothing to do with her. And Britt Baker and Rebel, not Reba, are out there as well, just kind of chaperoning and being valets for Jamie Hayter, and healing it up outside. Rojo gets leveled out by Hayter, kind of building that inverse momentum that she has to kind of conquer her. Baker's great out there. The segment itself's a 42. It's not fantastic, but it's what it is. Our main event is Dante Martin, who almost pinned Kenny Omega like a month ago in a one-on-one match against our champion. And Kenny gives him the shine, but in an 8-minute match does end up giving him a one-win angel and beating Dante Martin. Doc Gallows had run in and attacked Dante. Remember, Kenny Omega being a heel is not winning on his own anymore, and that may come into play at some point when he just he's getting weak around the edges. So Kenny does win after some interference from Dante, or onto Dante from Doc Gallows, who kind of ended up giving him a good attack when the ref wasn't looking. Dante had a 43, Kenny had a 77, gets us a 65. Afterwards, we end the show with Kenny Omega gloating with the whole crew, and end up saying basically that this was your guy. Everyone on the internet was saying that Dante Martin almost beat Kenny Omega. Well, here we are, 1-on-1, didn't do it. I don't see anybody in the entire locker room worthy of a match at this point. I beat Christian. I beat everybody. There's nobody out there that I haven't beaten. Kind of just gloating it up, and just talking about the fact that there's really nobody that that's a threat to him at this point. Whether he really feels like that, or whether there are people, we don't know, but he's definitely just really hamming it up at this point. Gets us a 53. Unfortunately, that loses popularity for us. Yeah, a weaker show, not good. Definitely not good. We probably needed a little bit more star power. I could have probably thrown out a Bryan Danielson promo to pop it or something, or CM Punk to pop it. But it is better than, I think, the minimum requirements for broadcasting, which is a 50 for Rampage and a 55 for Dynamite, but not where we want to be. So definitely got to course correct there in the next Rampage. We do got some mail. Big Swole changes her style now as an entertainer. We got a 0.128, or sorry, a 1.28 with 964,000 viewers. Not too bad at all. WWE has rehired Braun Strowman. Has not gone to Impact like he is reported. So very interesting there. Big Swole doing her thing. Very interesting. I kind of want to look at some of that field. I know one of our objectives is to hire a WWE star or former star. The one I'm thinking is, do we want Bray Wyatt? Currently out for legal reasons, which is quote-unquote his non-compete clause. It would be actually higher than this. I threw it on there just for the sake of doing it. I was going to hire him till later, but I'm kind of feeling like, okay, wait, so we can't yet. We are going to shortlist him. Someone we're going to want to look at, because we don't want WWE re-scooping him up, but I also necessarily don't want him in Impact either. I think we have a place for him. We do have some people we have not debuted yet, but that's fine. Still trying to figure out what I want to do with Adam Cole. I have a couple ideas, but I think we're going to debut him probably at our next event. I think we'll let him simmer for a bit as we kind of move him in. But not sure yet. So we do have... and that event's quickly coming up. We have Dark that we have to run. And then we'll have our Dynamite, and then the week after is Grand Slam. So we don't have a lot of build for this, but that is fine. Let's go ahead. I'll book through Dark, and then we'll get to Dynamite. All right, guys, we are back, ready for Dynamite. Just something interesting popped in the headlines that I just wanted to highlight before we get on to the show. Over at TNT, which I think is a small UK company, Session Moth Martina and Lana Austin have become a new tag team that I think we need to sue, called the Inner Circle. So I don't know what's going on over there. Also, apparently, Tom Lawler and Matt Riddle are arguing online. So this is a very realistic save already, I could tell. But just thought that was kind of interesting. All right, let's get on with the show. Where are we going to be this week? Looks like we are in the southeast. Going to be in the Watsco Center, which is... got 3,900 people. That seems about right. We could probably do a little bit higher than that, but it'll be a sellout, so that's fine. All right. Do we have any backstage stuff to deal with? No incidents. Bunch of absent workers, which we knew. We'll pull a rib again. Abaddon. They pull a minor rib. Didn't do anything. Oh well. Alright, we got a Dynamite book. And then this is technically our go-home Dynamite before our New York show. But we still actually have Rampage, for which we'll do next episode. But we do want to probably line up some things. We kind of have... Well, we have... Right now we have Miro, and we have Britt Baker, and Ruby Soho for the show. We need to talk to, I think, our tag team champions, which we haven't dealt with yet. We also don't have a tag team match. But no, not every belt needs to be up for grabs on just a special event show. So we'll give them some time. And I think we're going to give the tag team scene a little bit more time to develop. Meanwhile, we do have this tournament, which we've done one match so far. Can we get to the finals Could we get to the finals at the show? Because I kind of would like to crown our first King of Trios at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Well, let's see. So we have 8 men. So we have... What are we on? We're on the quarterfinals already. So we would need to get... I don't think we can. Because even if we did 2 matches tonight... That would be... Yeah, we wouldn't be able to. So we would not be able to get to Arthur Ashe Stadium for the King of Trios, unfortunately. We could probably get the semifinals as a show point. I think if we do... Yeah, because if we do 2 matches tonight, 1 match on Rampage, then the semifinals would be on Grand Slam. So... So we could get maybe one of them. Yeah, that's a bummer. Oh well. Unless we did something on Dark, and that doesn't feel right. We would have to do something crazy. We would have to book this entire show. We would do 3 trios matches tonight, which would be, doable, but it just doesn't seem. It doesn't make sense to me. I think we would tank our ratings for nothing. So, oh well, not a big deal. We'll get a semifinals. Maybe we'll do 2 of those at that show or something like that. Whatever. Anyways, we got a show to book. Let's go ahead and book it and get our Dynamite under the belt. At that point, we will have a average. So after this episode, we will have an average on the screen, and whatever that show rating average is, obviously if we're going to do Rampage and Dynamite, we gotta match that or higher. Basically, we actually have to kind of do a little bit higher, or else we're gonna start losing momentum points, which would be bad for us. So something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and let's book the show. Alright guys, we are ready for Dynamite. No real major booking problem, so we should be okay. This is sort of our go-home Dynamite, so we had to set up a couple things for Arthur Ashe, though we still have Rampage, and we already set some stuff up for the last Rampage, so I'm feeling like we're in a pretty good spot. Having those 2 shows gives us a lot to work with, so I'm very happy with it. Let's go ahead and let's start the show. We start the show better than I thought it would be for our one of our first round of the King of Trios. We've already had a match on Rampage. We have 2 tonight. We got Chuck Taylor, Wheeler Yuta, and Orange Cassidy, aka the Best Friends minus Trent, versus the Wingmen. And yeah, it's considered a poor match. I think 56 is better than I expected from it, to be honest. It was a work the crowd match, an opener. Wingmen lose. They get Peter Avalon gets an awful waffle from Chuck Taylor. Orange Cassidy being above and shoulders everybody else, which is certainly true. Peter Avalon, Cesar Bononi, and JD Drake not doing great here, but we get the win. Do we boost the crowd? We got to show off to a strong start, and even though it was poor wrestling overall, the mix here gave us a 56, which is pretty good, and Best Friends move on to the semifinals. After that, we have just an announcement that, so in this save, Tanahashi at this point does not have the IWGP US title. I should have probably fixed that, but I forgot about it. And one of the cool things is one of the Alliance titles is actually the IWGP US title. So That is actually the Forbidden Door Alliance title. If we ever can get a situation where we can buy the NWA, I probably would make their title also an Alliance title, which I think would be a lot of fun, especially their women's title, which it kind of is already. Maybe we should fix that now, but well, actually we can't because they're not in our Alliance, so boo. As I correct myself, which would be very cool, but I think we might have to try to buy them out at some point if they start to flounder. Anyways, New Japan officials announced on the announce booth, they announced that the New Japan officials want Ethan Page to challenge for the IWGP US title tonight, sort of a tryout to face Lance Archer for the title. It's a 46 here, and we have that match next. After the commercial break, Lance Archer versus Ethan Page. It's a pretty solidly long match, too. 13 minutes. Lance Archer does defeat Ethan Page and retains the title. Gets a 58. Ethan Page gets a 46. And we get a 58 total for the actual match itself. Lance Archer looking fantastic out there. And still is our US IWGP champion. After that, we have a match after the constant run-ins and fights. We have Darby Allin versus Daniel Garcia. 2.0 has been attacking Sting and Darby for a bit. And, we have a little bit of a blow-off match, I guess you could say. Daniel Garcia versus Darby Allin. Darby Allin does defeat Daniel Garcia in 8 minutes after a coffin drop. Darby has a 63, Daniel has a 31, gets us a 56, not horrible. Remember, we need to be above 55 before we get a penalty, so these are early on the low card. These are looking very good here for us, so that I'm happy with that. Sting ringside doing great work, which is something we expect. After the fact on the match here, of course, the other members of 2.0 come out to rough up Sting and Darby. Gives them a bit of time for Daniel Garcia to get back on his feet, and the 3-on-1 ends up, or the 3-on-2 ends up turning into a 3-on-1 after they manage to isolate Sting, throwing him through a table at ringside. Again, poor guy. And all three have now cornered Darby Allin in one of the ring corners and are about to do a 3-on-1. And then they all pause as Cult of Personality hits Punk rushes. Push is the new name. CM Punk. Oh man, combining words there. Punk rushes to the ring. CM Punk is in the ring side by side with Darby Allin. 2.0 look immediately concerned, and they start to attack CM Punk one at a time. Punk starts leveling them out, and the two of them team up to take down 2.0, building up, I think, to a trios match at Arthur Ashe between all of them. This does very well. CM Punk obviously was a real star. Darby Allin looking good. Sting coming across well. Daniel Garcia did not come out of this looking good, unfortunately. Jeff Parker was underwhelming. And Jeff Parker, for some reason, scripting, I don't know why. I must have set them to entertainment or something. I thought I had him to sell. Overall, 52 could have been a bit better, especially for a CM Punk segment, a little underwhelming. I should have probably had him have a speech or something afterwards. Actually, perhaps we can give him an audible to call and do that. So let me go do that real quick and see if we can get a quick bump here. One of the better parts about TEW 2020 is that you can call an audible and move things on the fly as long as you haven't completed it. So we had our ref come out there and say, hey, the crowd was a little underwhelmed there. Maybe pop them real quick. We got a couple minutes so we can shave. And he does, Punk does an impromptu on the mic and just says, the three of them versus 2.0 in New York. Let's go. Sting. Holy crap. That kind of thing. Gets us a 68. A better sequence here. Kept Darby in there to kind of give him a bit of a rub with Punk, though he probably is the reason why this didn't get like a 98 or something like that. But that's fine. We want to build up Darby. Afterwards, in a much better segment here, very good, Moxley is backstage. There's a video. He's kind of wrapping up his hands with like gaffer tape, that white tape, kind of ready for a fight kind of thing. And as he's doing it, he's talking to the camera. He's got some things to say. He's very pissed off because so New Japan still hasn't given me what I want. And instead, I was stripped of my title in a match, and I've never gotten a rematch. Now, Ethan Page gets a tryout on Dynamite. Where is Tanahashi? Where is the respect from these companies? New Japan, AEW. I've carried the burden of them on my back. When there was nobody in the crowd, when we didn't know if the world would ever reopen again, I got out there in blistering heat every night. And every damn night, I poured everything I had into the ring. I busted my ass to keep both companies afloat. And the thanks I get, well, I get pushed down the card now. Those opportunities not deserve, I've earned. Well, they keep on seeming to disappear. Voicemails keep on going unanswered. And now, to add insult to injury, you got Tony Khan's new toys coming in after I've built this company. And now he gets to play around and show up and expect the spotlight to just go right to them. Well, I'm still here. And I'm going to say, not anymore. You want the spotlight, you have to go through me. So Moxley's gone full psycho. He's very upset about his place on the card now. Very upset about a lot of things, and he's letting it known vocally on the show. This gets the crowd hotter. Very good. We have oh boy, what a bad match. The Inspiration have a squash match with Kylan King and Red Velvet. And it's very bad, man. Jesse McKay and Cassie Lee do okay, like a 40s. It's kind of what we expect from them. But Red Velvet and Kylan King really struggle here to keep up. It did bring the crowd down a little bit, which is what we want, just cool them down a little bit for our next match. But I didn't expect it to get a bomb of a rating like this. But the Inspiration, their new tag team name, do get a win. They have a win on Dark as well, I believe. And we have another bad match. Oh man, we're going to get screwed today. Nightmare Family versus The Factory for the King of Trios match. It's terrible. I agree. The Factory defeat the Nightmare Family, or the Gun Club, actually. 6 minutes, Nick Comoroto pinned Austin Gunn with a powerbomb. Billy Gunn was head and shoulders above everybody else. Oh boy, this is a bad match. QT was doing good work ringside, but yeah, Aaron Solo's got a 27, Nick Comoroto's got a 29, Go-Go's has a 34, Billy Gunn has a 44, Austin and Colton have like a 21, 22, gives us a 32, not very good here. Also a very bad segment. Go-Go's out there with Billy Gunn and Colton Gunn. The Factory rough up the Guns, hold Billy Gunn out there, and Go-Go kidney punches Colton and drops him to piss off Billy Gunn. Go-Go and team are moving on, but have kind of disrespected Billy Gunn, and maybe we'll do more of that off camera on Dark. I don't know if I really... Man, holy crap, what a bad segment, 1-2 punch segment here. Let's hope the main event and everything else starts to turn this around. This doesn't do much better, unfortunately. It's a terrible match. Ruby Soho does defeat Jamie Hayter. I think I gotta give Jamie Hayter a bit of a boost back on the settings here, because I don't see her in-ring performance being a 28. It did hurt us because this was also a crazy match. So we probably should have put the other cooldown in between them. That was my mistake, but Ruby Soho does defeat Jamie Hayter in 12 minutes with a hidey-ho. Boy, 32 is not looking good here. Better segment here. Ruby Soho and Britt Baker square off. gets the crowd popped. They're going to have a match at the next Dynamite on Grand Slam. Another segment does very well for us here is Alex Marvez is backstage saying, we're going to have an interview just in a second with Danielson, but where is he? And the cameras start rushing as he finds out something. The cameras run to the parking garage nearby where they find Danielson being attacked by Jon Moxley. Bryan Danielson was on his way to the interview when he was jumped, and we catch him mid-jumping. The two fight it out a little bit, but Moxley is more in his element here, and the brutality of Moxley overwhelms Bryan Danielson and ends up leaving him viciously assaulted and lying on the ground. Medics coming in to check on him, and Moxley just walking away. So Moxley and Bryan Danielson clearly starting to heat up. He attacked him originally on All Out, now kind of simmered down to then kind of target him again. So kind of definitely building up to a match between the two of them here. Gets us a 80, much better segment. Our main event is not bad. It's a 70 here. Kenny Omega and the rest of the Elite fight the Inner Circle. Sammy did good in here, but he does lose. Kenny Omega pins Sammy Guevara with a one-winged angel. End up getting a 58 for Carl Anderson, 58 for Doc Gallows, an 82 for Kenny Omega, a 61 for Santana, 59 for Ortiz, and a 60 for Sammy Guevara. Got the crowd buzzing. Overall, a very good match. Afterwards, Kenny and Don Callis grab the mic, and Kenny Omega struts around and basically has a little bit of a chat. The whole Super Elite are around him, minus the Young Bucks, who are nowhere to be seen. And Kenny Omega goes, once again, the Elite are on top of the card and undefeatable. The crowd chants, where are the Bucks? Where's the Bucks? And Don Callis rips the microphone from Kenny Omega to shut them down. He goes, we will talk about the Bucks later. It's about Kenny Omega right now. The god of professional wrestling. The greatest of all time. The best in the world. And he blurts it out to shut up the crowd. The crowd respond very negatively to this. And Kenny grabs the microphone back. And he goes, that's right. I am all of these things. And sadly, there is nobody out there to challenge me yet. Look at the card. There's nobody. I've gone through everybody that is anybody in AEW right now. I should just pack up the ball and go home. I should just hang up my jersey, just completely undefeated, and vacate this title because there is nobody in AEW that can topple me. As he says this, like clockwork, new music that we haven't heard before blares out, and Kenny turns to the screen shocked. He knows this song. He looks up at a logo of that's on the screen. It's New Japan Pro Wrestling's lion crest. He mouths a no, because he does know what's about to come. And his old friend enters through the tunnel. Kenny's jaw drops. Through the forbidden door, the Golden Star, Kota Ibushi, has come to AEW. This does very well, even though Kota Ibushi was held back by the language barrier. Shouldn't be speaking. I think I just had him set for charisma, but sure. Gets a 62. Kota Ibushi has come to AEW. Important. The only person that has ever kicked out of a one-winged angel, and the only person that has actually, well, not the only person that's ever beaten Kenny Omega, but a person who has consistently bettered Kenny Omega, has come here clearly with intent to challenge for the belt. Big reveal, big moment here. Does it pop the crowd like I wanted it to? No. Little concerned about the rating of this show. Let's see. We really just need above a 55. We get a 63. We actually lose some popularity in other regions. This undercard, this middle of the card, really hurt us. Really bad. So that's very unfortunate. The rest of the show, very good, though. But definitely losing some popularity there. We need to turn that around, or else we won't have a job for long. But we did not upset the broadcaster. We can have a weak show. A 63 is not the end of the world, and we can crawl back from that, I think, pretty quickly. All right, we are back, and yeah, I agree with this. Our Dynamite report, it drew well. The show was good, though some found it underwhelming. It definitely was a Dynamite-ass Dynamite, and sometimes it's good but not great, and that was definitely our situation there. We had a good but not great Dynamite, and some of that parts of that card were weaker. We got a 1.80 for it, which is very nice. But yeah, it's a little underwhelming, but we see where our weaknesses are on our card right now. We still have a excellent rating for performance for our booking, so we don't have to worry about Tony Khan right now, but definitely not necessarily what we wanted from that card. But we set up some good things. We got Kota Ibushi presumably starting to face Kenny Omega. We set up a lot of story beats. We're gonna have an awesome Grand Slam. And what I want to know from you guys in the comments is, what should we do with Adam Cole? I kind of wanted to bring him in, maybe with a stable, like the Undisputed Era, but who should be in that? Should we look to hire some people? Should it be people already on our roster, reintegrated? Let me know what you think we should do. We also failed to have Pentagon and Phoenix on, and Andrade, so we had to make sure to really put them on Rampage, I think. But, you only have 2 hours. Sometimes you gotta work with what you gotta work with. So, overall, though, very happy with what we had. Now, the next episode, like I said, the averages are gonna go live, so we're gonna have to worry about our momentum, because it's going to start to dip, and when it dips, bad things will happen. Alright, guys, thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you on the flip side for another episode of AEW New Era. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.